Poštovani kolegice i kolege, sudionici, dragi članovi i prijatelji Runde i svi vi koji nas pratite, dobrodošli na Runda Digital Day 2. Kada smo prije godinu dana pokrenuli konferenciju, nikome od nas nije ni na kraj pameti bilo u kojim ćemo uvjetima pripremati i održavati ovu koja kreće danas. Jako dobar uspjeh i iznad naših očekivanja i sjajan odjek ove prve konferencije potaknuo nas je da razmišljamo o tome koje gradove ćemo uključiti u iduće izdanje, kako dodati live nastup uz konferenciju, da se spoji i promocija izvođača naših članova, kako kroz networking još više na konferenciji povezati glazbenu scenu regije i regionalno s Europom. Nažalost, danas smo u potpuno drugim okolnostima. Danas konferenciju održavamo u značajno drugačijim okolnostima jer su one dijelom odredile i glavne teme naših centralnih panela. Prvo, pandemija COVID-19 koja je među prvima udarila na naš glazbeni live sektor već u 2. mjesecu ove godine, da bi ga u potpunosti zaustavila nekoliko tjedana kasnije, onda i zatvorila dućane, te je posredno usporila i otežala rad kompletne glazbene industrije, te nas nagnala da se bavimo mjerama, apelima, prijedlozima, alternativnim modelima poslovanja, promocije, live stream koncertima i još više okrenemo digitalnim platformama. No ipak, iako je ova 2020. po mnogo čemu loša za sve nas, nije sve bilo tako sivo ove 2020. kako u poznatom hitu pjeva grupa Hladno pivo. Pa smo tako sredinom godine konačno dočekali dolazak najvažnijih svjetskih digitalnih streaming servisa u regiju. Dolazak Apple Musica i Spotify bio je udarna regionalna medijska vijest, tjednima glazbena industrija je slavila, a ljubitelji glazbe konačno su dočekali da uživaju u istim pogodnostima kao i njihovi istomišljenici u ostatku svijeta. Naravno, postavlja se pitanje da li smo mi kao regionalna glazbena industrija dočekali spremni ovaj dolazak i što sada i na koji način trebamo prije svega kao izdavači u pristupu digitalnim glazbenim servisima učiniti, te osigurati da se glazba iz regije, glazba naših lokalnih izdavača izbori za svoje mjesto pored globalnih trendova i globalnih zvijezda. Osim toga, prošle smo godine na Digital Dayu pričali i slavili konačno donošenje direktive o autorskom pravu i srodnim pravima na jedinstvenom digitalnom tržištu, a eto ove godine već smo u procesu implementacije u lokalno zakonodavstvo. U nekim zemljama poput Francuske, Nizozemske, Italije, pa i Hrvatske moguće je da se ovi zakoni donesu već do kraja godine. Mnogo je tu još naravno izazova na putu, odnosa koje treba urediti, no implementacija direktive nema alternativu. Ne smije se dopustiti njezino razvodnjavanje, ali ne smije se dopustiti ni zloupotreba za redefiniranje odnosa kojima ona to nije svrha i čemu ne služi. Dijalog i dogovor su jedini put i u okviru onoga što je već postojeća praksa i što je realno u odnosima između raznih nositelja prava. I na kraju, kao posljedica pokreta koji su se pojavili ove godine, poput Black Lives Matter i Me Too, senzibilizirali javnost na nepravdu i neravnopravnost, izuzimanje, zlostavljanje i druge oblike društveno neprihvatljivog ponašanja, i glazbena industrija se morala zapitati koliko poštuje raznolikost i koliko smo kao glazbeni sektor uključivi. Impalina povelja o raznolikosti i uključivosti je jedna od prvih koja je razradila niz preporuka za sve unutar glazbene zajednice kako pristupiti tom problemu i kojim postupcima spriječiti da se slične situacije ne događaju u budućnosti. Upravo ovo su glavne teme naših panela. To su aktualne teme i odredile su ton Runda Digital Daya i o njima ćemo razgovarati u 3 iduća dana. Naravno, tu je još i niz edukacija, prezentacija, webinara sa raznim temama vezanima uz digitalnu distribuciju, promociju glazbe, uključujući i neke nove aplikacije i platforme i baze koje unapređuju digitalnu glazbenu industriju globalno i regionalno, poput RDX baze projekta One Step Ahead ili Now Is Digital. Osvrnut ćemo se i na 20 godina Impale, naše krovne europske organizacije, i 2 runde ugrađene u tih 20 godina. Također ponosni smo što će jedan od naših gostiju ovaj put virtualno, a uskoro nadajmo se i uživo biti i legenda indie scene Martin Mills, osnivač Beggars Banqueta i predsjedatelj globalne grupacije indie labela Beggars Group. Sve u svemu, preko 30 glazbenih profesionalaca sudjelovat će na ovogodišnjem izdanju Runda Digital Daya, te ovim putem zahvaljujem svima koji su se odazvali ili pomogli na bilo koji način da se Runda Digital Day i ove godine održi. Vjerujem da su pred nama 3 zanimljiva dana i da će i ove godine, makar u neobičajenim uvjetima, interes i odziv biti velik. Ove godine ponovo smo, zahvaljujući, dobili podršku Merlina i između ostalog, kao i obično, imamo podršku Impale, HDU, FPS-a, te se Runda Digital Day održava u partnerstvu sa Indirect Showcase festivalom. Vjerujem da će svima program biti zanimljiv, a sada ću, eto, pošto imamo jako puno kolega i gostiju i sudionika koji će razumjeti, dakle, bolje engleski nego hrvatski, par riječi uputiti i na engleskom. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, participants, followers, members, and friends of Runda, welcome to Runda Digital Day 2. When we started conference 1 year ago, none of us had the slightest idea on what conditions we'll be setting up this second edition. Success and good feedback from first conference have made us start thinking on how can we make second edition even bigger, better, how can we include showcase performances for artists, how can we connect music scene in the region better through conference and region with the rest of the Europe and the world. Unfortunately, now we are in a very different situation that mostly determined the tone of this year's conference. First, COVID-19 pandemic that hit live music sector among first mid-February and then closed all music shops and normal life as we know it until then, as well as subsequently stopped or slowed down all music industry or most of the music industry for several months and will last and still lasts until I don't know when, and how devastating consequences will be at the end on the music industry from this COVID pandemic. That situation made us start thinking about measurements, appeals, calls, solidarity funds, alternative ways of doing business, and for many in music industry, it was a fight for bare survival. We turned to live streaming, we turned more to digital, new ways of promotion, and it's certain that this will change in many ways music industry as we know it, and now we must be prepared for the moment when the pandemic stops and start thinking how we will rebuild our businesses and music sector in general. But not all things were bad. There was some good news this year, at least in a regional music market. Last year at Runda Digital Day, we announced coming of Spotify and other digital platforms to the region. And mid this year, we finally seen it happen with coming first of Apple Music and then Spotify. This was top news in the region. Of course, music industry rejoiced, but now we need to ask ourselves, are we ready? And how do we approach as record labels and digital services to secure that local repertoire finds its place among global trends and the global superstars? Also, last year, we were celebrating that DSM directive passed in the European Parliament, and this year, we are in process of implementation. Some countries are ahead, like France, Netherlands, Italy, or Croatia, and there may be even new laws by the end of the year. There are many challenges on this way, but implementation of directive does not have alternative. We must avoid any attempts of watering down or implementation of new and unexisting and unknown rights, since that is not the purpose of the directive. Dialogue and agreement between right holders are the only way to solve things on this path. And finally, movements like Black Lives Matter and Me Too sensitized public on injustice and equality exemption and other ways of socially unacceptable behavioral patterns that music industry also had to ask itself, are we respecting diversity and inclusivity enough? And what can we do to change things and make them better? One of the first initiatives on that subject was Impala's Diversity and Inclusivity Charter that brings many recommendations and practices on how to approach to this problem. And these determined topics of our main panels. With that, there will be many educational presentations, webinars, and many new informations to see and hear for all who are interested in music industry and especially digital ways of music distribution. We will look back on 20 years of Impala, our head European association, and 2 years of Runda that were built in this 20 also. All in all, over 30 musical professionals will be part of this year's Runda Digital Day 2. And on behalf of all of us from Runda team, we thank you for your support and help. This year, Runda Digital Days is again sponsored by Merlin. We are thankful, and supported by Impala, Croatian Discographic Union, OFPS, and held in partnership with Indirect Showcase Festival. By this, on behalf of RUNDA, I conclude my opening speech, and I say, let's go and let's start RUNDA Digital Day number 2. Thank you all.
Hi, Tom.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine. You?
Good, thanks.
Nice to meet you at last. You know, you were in so much emails, and now I can put your face on those emails, and it's wonderful for the first time.
Yeah, it is wonderful. It's really good to meet you. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick if you don't mind, I'm going to do a quick 5-6 minute overview of Merlin and what we've been up to, and then we can do a bit of a Q&A, talk about Croatia Records. Sound good? Yeah. So obviously I'm based in London. My name is Tom Deacon, and I'm Director Global Member Relations at Merlin. I want to thank RUNDA first of all for inviting me to speak today about who we are, how we empower our members, and a few updates about Merlin in 2020. I've been with Merlin for almost 12 years now because I'm a passionate supporter of our mission in my role. I have the privilege of overseeing a team that helps and supports our members maximize the full value of their membership. So let's start with the basics. What is Merlin? We're an organization that is owned by our members, and we operate like a not-for-profit. We are comprised of the most important independent labels, distributors, and other rights holders from around the world. Our members represent tens of thousands of labels and the repertoire from hundreds of thousands of artists from across the world, ranging from garage band to singer-songwriter, to burgeoning hip-hop acts, to chart-topping global superstars. Our sole mission is to represent the interests of our members so they can own their future. How do we carry out this mission? We strike the best deals for our members with digital music services. We now have over 30 deals in place, including with Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Tencent, and now Snap and Triller. That means our team strike premium deals. We collect the monies owed and then turn it around quickly to our members. We chase the reports, and we treat all our members from the smallest to the largest with the same transparent approach. We also operate under a framework that means you work directly with digital services. Merlin then offers support via best practices, webinars, technical support, and CMS support. And we do all of this for a low admin fee of 1.5% if you're a member of RUNDA. This collective approach has built up Merlin to now represent 15% of the global digital marketplace. This means we are first in line to license new services, activate new opportunities with current partners, and be the premier advocate with digital services for independence. While we are obsessed with delivering value to our members, we also work hard to provide value to our digital partners. Merlin is an important part of their ecosystem. Through a single license, they gain access to the largest, most diverse and iconic music catalog in the world. So, what have we been up to? 2020 has been an unprecedented year for all industries, but especially so for music. This year, we've stayed even closer with our members to help advise and support them through this challenging period. We've also welcomed new members into the Merlin community, as well as expanded into new parts of the globe. In the first 6 months of 2020, our community grew by more than 70 members, including first-time members in Burkina Faso, Ghana, Peru, Singapore, Slovakia, and United Arab Emirates. We have also seen sustained growth in Japan, Latin America, Middle East, and Africa and Southeast Asia, as well as increased growth in distributor and DIY distributor members. We've also grown our digital partnerships. Our goal is to ensure that our members have access to the most commercially significant and strategic digital platforms. In 2020, Merlin was the first to sign a label deal with Snap, and we recently closed a partnership with Triller. Merlin also worked closely with Apple to help strategize and support the launch of their $50 million COVID fund. In January, we welcomed a new CEO, Jeremy Serota, in New York City. Jeremy is a former lawyer. He spent time working in tech. He worked at a major as well as with independents and headed up independent licensing on the Facebook music team. Our board is elected from a very own membership. It's equally split between North America, Europe, and rest of the world, and it's a reflection of the diversity of our community. In our last election, we had a number of new members joining, including Chan from Fluxus in Korea, Michael from Freeme Digital in Nigeria, Marie from Ninja Tune, Katie from Reach Records, Alexandria from Better Noise, and Carlos from Mills Records in Brazil. And we've grown our member relations and member operations team this year. We now have 2 more team members to help on board and support new and existing members. We've also been fortunate to add new deal makers, new software developers, and growing in other areas so that we can better support our members. So that's Merlin. I'm proud to be part of this company. I'm proud to support independents who have shown extraordinary resilience and creativity this year. And I look forward to continuing to empower our members to be independent while competing on an equal footing. So again, thanks to Runda today for inviting me. And now what's going to be great is we can talk, obviously, to Frame, who is a member of Merlin. So Croatia Records, so Merlin also started back in 2008, and then Croatia joined in 2011. So what would be great, right, is if we get some background on Croatia Records, for those that might not know, and then obviously your role in the company and how you came to join Merlin.
Okay, so Croatia Records is the oldest company in the region. It was founded in 1947, and till this day it has the largest catalog in the whole of the region. Then it was, the country was Yugoslavia, and so we have different kind of catalogs from all of the ex-republic, and also we had the strength to sign even some Hungarian performers and some from Russia. We were kind of a major company in this part of Europe. The whole thing is that we now have around 80 to 90,000 tracks in our catalog, and from various genres, so from pop music, classical music, rock music, every aspect of, and some of those tracks are kind of national treasures, you know, from those kind of periods in the start. So we kind of transformed through the years. You can see transformation from 1947. You can see through the papers, you can see transformation from the company that deals in that period of time only with vinyl, then to cassettes, then to CD, and to digital. At every point, at every breaking point in the industry, we had luck to have persons who kind of listened around what is going on in the world and kind of anticipated that change that was going in this direction. So we feel very lucky that we are at this point now, because now we have all of our catalog is digitalized, is catalogized, and just to refer to, as you said, it's very nice to work in a company that has that much history, and it's, you know, you are like standing on the shoulders of of the persons that were here before you, and it's kind of fulfilling experience. I came to the company in 2012. We had a deal with Merlin uh, around 2012. I think YouTube was then. We had an account with YouTube. At that point, YouTube the number were very small. You know, mainly this kind of in this part, not much companies invested in Google advertising and everything. So the numbers were very small. But on the other hand, it started to grow exponentially, and we are now with numbers that are very satisfying in this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point you make about how you've sort of how your company has managed to evolve with the times. And I think the fact that Croatia Records joined Merlin in 2011, which is kind of given that Apple Music, Spotify, most of these services weren't actually licensed in your market. It's kind of like you're almost like ahead of the game in knowing that joining Merlin and sort of strategically thinking like, yeah, digital is the future, when obviously way before these services even existed in your market.
Well, not only that, is when you have, I heard saying before a few years that there are no more big and small companies. There are quick and slow companies. That's the main difference between companies now. And when I said that we were blessed that people were thinking ahead of the time, I'm thinking of 1990s when our director now anticipated that started the digitalization of the whole catalog. And you can see, I'm standing here, and these are all row after row just filled with tracks, and everything had to go through those old-fashioned studios to in real time to process them, and then to implement on every single one of them the metadata of every single track. The author of the author of the text, the author of the music, when it was everything. And we kind of developed through that process. We had and the process was long. I think 20 years. It took 20 years to do all those things. But when you do it in 1990s, now you are ready to deliver to every single platform in the world. And that's what I'm saying about thinking ahead. This was way ahead of that time. On the other point that you said was that at that time the market in Croatia, the XU market, wasn't having any deals with these major streaming or one-time download companies. But we had a large communities in the world that are used to this. We have large immigration in Germany. We have large immigration in United States, everywhere. So it was kind of a logic that those people were generating all of our revenues for years, and only now, with the exception of Deezer, only now it started, to gain some kind of traction here with incomes coming from the platforms here, and we're kind of very happy to see the results, but we had all those preparations for years and years, and now you can kind of harvest those kind of things that we have done all through the years.
I think that's definitely the exciting thing for you now is like you say. I mean, for markets where they're very kind of localized, and don't necessarily have, don't necessarily expand beyond their own territory. Of course, like you said, there are pockets, and we've experienced cases where we've done some data analysis, especially like markets like something like Japan, where it's a very sort of closed market, where it's a very sort of traditional physical kind of market. Yet when we did some data analysis, they were finding that they were receiving lots of streams in Brazil and other places in the world that they would never have shipped physical products. They've never distributed to those markets. Yet suddenly they were now, they were generating revenue from these new markets that they've never received before. So, so it's nice to think that yes, you've probably already, like you say, experiencing that, receiving international revenues from Germany and UK and other places in Europe and even the US. But obviously, as now, hopefully with Apple and Spotify now, launching your own market, and as that starts to get established, it will take time. You said yourself, when YouTube, when you started on YouTube back in 2012, the revenues were insignificant. It takes, YouTube is a basically an advertising model. Yes, they've now obviously launched a subscription model, and those subscriber numbers on YouTube are going up and up every month, and it's very encouraging. But predominantly, we see, you see that as they sell adverts against your content, and obviously they have to get established in each market to be able to sell adverts. So that takes time. You can't just, you need to find out who wants to pay for ads to put on YouTube. And once that starts getting established, that's when you start seeing the revenue. Now you're seeing the revenue. And it's similar with Spotify and Apple. People need to start, Apple, Spotify, they need to start working and doing partnerships with the local telecommunications companies. So, you get a free subscription bundled in with your mobile phone and things like that. And as people start using the product, start getting familiar with Spotify and Apple, they will adopt and start using it. And so I know at the moment, it's only been, I think, what Apple and Spotify launched around May this year. So we have, it's still very early days, and I'm hoping that obviously, I'd imagine in months to come, that those numbers will keep on growing, which is what the trend is, what we've seen throughout the world. So can you tell me a bit more about your sort of day-to-day role? What do you do at Croatia Records? And
well, I'm a publishing and licensing manager. That was my title when I came here, but I very early I was going in every direction, because you had to move through the company to learn all the processes that are going through all the processes of the firm. And at this point, I'm kind of a legal. I'm dealing with all kind of legal stuff in Croatia Records. Still publishing and licensing and so on. But just to refer to those early days with YouTube, when you get that map of the world and you can see where everything was kind of in that early stage, I was kind of losing time looking how much links did I have from, I don't know, South Korea or I don't know, Greenland or something like that. It was kind of exciting to imagine those kind of people have access to our content and really listening to our content. And that was kind of exciting for me. It was the first time that you can have those kind of information. And so I was dealing with everything, at that point, because it was very exciting to have those kind of informations. And now we take it now for granted, but at that point in time, it was kind of maybe sounds over romantic, but
no, not at all.
I really had that kind of relation with the content, like you can imagine the people, some Inuit in Greenland with in his igloo opening his, I don't know, opening his laptop and listening to, I don't know, Zdravko Čolić or something.
Of course, but I mean the point on data is that it's an important one. I mean, and you mentioned, you know, there's two types of companies. One, you know, not small or large, but fast or slow. And obviously, you know, the market is evolving like at such a rate now. You know, I think yes, I don't think we're going to get to any new format. You know, I think we've done, you know, vinyl, you know, vinyl to, you know, CD and cassettes to digital downloads to, you know, now a stream. I can't imagine there's going to be any new type of format. But what we are seeing changing is how people now consume music. It's not just about an album and a single. It's obviously, you know, we're seeing the success of services like TikTok and Instagram, and Facebook, where people are now using music, just small snippets of music, but it, you know, that's it. It's a new way in which people are now listening to music. So it's not necessarily about, you know, having ownership anymore. It's not just about access. It's about how people want to interact with music on an emotional level and how it plays a part in building their story almost. And so there's always these new formats. And you mentioned, you know, that data you got from YouTube. I mean, how important, I mean, how much are you using data now to help inform you about your decisions on what you need to do with your artists?
Yeah, I think that every generation said that their format is the end format, and then the new format kind of reappears. And I, you know, I'm still a vinyl freak. You know, I'm still listening to vinyl. I'm still listening to CDs. And I have those kind of benefits uh, of new technology like Spotify and Deezer, and they're very easy to use. On the other hand, it's different kind of approach. When you mention TikTok like a platform, it isn't to distribute music. It's kind of it's something. It's social media that has music as a background, as some kind of form. And I'm not sure that that's mainly. I think that at that point the record companies at this point have to reuse their catalog. We had this story with Fleetwood Mac as the streaming of their song skyrocket because of the TikTok viral video that was launched. So we have to use those kind of platforms to make new formats to to put another value to our content. I think that's the main goal that we have at this point. And like 3 days ago, Sony contacted me for a song from 1970s, the Arco Domian, to use a sample from that song for a young rap star. And that's kind of a new way that we have to, you know, reintroduce the back catalog, and how to present the new catalog. We have to present it in those kind of new medias and new ways. We have to be open-minded in every single form.
I think that's right. I think you're right. I mean, obviously, you know, TikTok, like you say, it's not a music platform, but obviously it's almost like a music marketing platform, because it's a very good way to, like you say, to build a campaign. To, you know, I mean, obviously there's no kind of magic way you can make something go viral. It either does or it doesn't. You know, sometimes these things just happen, and you know, when it does happen, it's obviously fantastic for the artist. It's fantastic for the label and everyone involved with the record. But obviously there are ways in which you can, you know, utilize and leverage those tools to help promote, and you know, and so I imagine, you know, and going back to that data point, you know, having access to this data is so helpful now to for you to understand how your music's performing on all these different platforms, and to obviously see where things are working, and if they are working, to then continue that work. You know, if you suddenly saw something taking off on TikTok, you know, you can then obviously understand where you know, who's listening to it, where is it, where, you know, what market, what age, and then you can build on that kind of success, and that success also then spills over onto the other platforms. You know, if someone likes a TikTok video and they hear that song, you know, they might then go onto Spotify and then actually listen to the whole song. And if they really like the whole song, they might then listen to more of the songs from the artist. And then they might listen to the album, and then they might eventually become a mega fan and want to go buy vinyl and merchandise and maybe go see them in concerts. So obviously, it's just another way in which someone can, it's that access to content, to music, which is really, really important. And although, you know, we now have these sort of big players in the market, very well established, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, YouTube, Deezer, you know, it never stops moving, never stops changing. You know, like I said earlier, you know, this year we've licensed Snap and Triller. And Triller very much like TikTok, and Snap. Everyone knows Snap as a messaging service. So again, there's always new services looking to license, and you know, there's always new opportunities. And I guess what would be good to talk about is how working with Merlin has helped you take advantage of that.
Well, at first, when we started to deal with Merlin, I just, you know, said to you, it was the first time that we struck a deal with YouTube. But YouTube at that point was already a big stop in Croatia. It was the big stop in region. Everybody kind of counting the clicks, and nobody knew, was there any money behind it? Is there any money behind it? You had so few commercials at that point happening when you click to music videos, and it was kind of when we very grateful, because we started to, you know, for the first time to see some kind of information that was very much needed to us to see what the direction was. On the other side, when I have an email from Merlin, I always tend to read it, because it's kind of useful to get those kind of informations, and you are quite, you know, precise with information that you struck a new deal. What is the deal like? What is the information about the platform and everything? You know, you kind of explain everything in that kind of mail, and it is some kind of good thing to see where everything is going. So I'm kind of seeing Merlin as a kind of place where I get my information from. You know, that when you struck a new deal with something that I don't even know, that platform, which is, I don't know, in China or in some specific part of the world, I'm kind of trying to learn, and it's quite amazing. How do you get to those deals? And no, that's the main thing that I never asked you, but I think it's very, very exciting to learn those kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think obviously I imagine, again, for our members, because Merlin does represent such a large percentage of the market share, 15% market share. You know, when we're providing some of the reports and the data that we share with our members, obviously it's very insightful to see how 15% of the global market share is performing on Facebook or on Spotify or on YouTube, you know. And so that level of information, obviously you don't get, if you're just doing a license by yourself, you then don't necessarily get the full broader picture of, okay, well, how are the rest of the independents working? Whereas what we're doing now is providing sort of a sort of very broad level sort of data analysis of some of these services, where you can then actually benchmark yourself and go, okay, well, this is where Merlin's performing in the US and in Russia and France and UK. Well, where are we performing against that? And so I think that again must be incredibly useful to our members to be able to see that, because then it gives you a real sort of understanding, indication as to whether you're overperforming or underperforming. And then obviously if you're overperforming, that's fantastic, great, whatever we're doing seems to be working in that market. And if you're underperforming, then well, maybe we need to just, you know, go back to Merlin and find out why that is, and what are we doing that we should, what could we do that could help improve our performance in that market. Maybe it's just a genre thing, maybe it's just that, you know, content doesn't perform that well, maybe, you know, or maybe it's maybe you're not utilizing, you know, the platform correctly, maybe you're not building out a playlisting strategy, or maybe you're not, you know, using advertising correctly, or perhaps you should be, maybe there's things you could be doing off platform in that market that can help boost and promote your content in that region. So I definitely think that level of being a part of a larger group of independents, I think it's really helpful as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I really do. I really do agree with everything that you said, because on the other side, when you do things directly, you have, you know, those kind of automatic messages that you don't have live people on the other side. So when you have a question, you got some kind of
the other side. When you do things directly,
and there are and it's kind of
you have, you know,
interesting to hear it in that kind of way, that you have a live person to speak to your problems, how to do this, how to do that, what is your experience in different kind of
hear it in that kind of way, that you have a live person to speak.
Dario, you need to mute your channel.
Yeah, sorry for that, but I just wanted to warn you, you have 3 minutes, so you conclude.
Great.
Brilliant, very good. So no, and I think just to finish up on that point, yeah, with our members, obviously, you know, there is a lot of transparency, and you know, we do share all the information with our members, which again, obviously, you know, and knowing that we have such a large membership representing such significant independent labels and artists around the world, it also gives our members a lot of peace of mind. And one of the things I get is that, you know, if you're doing a deal by yourself, you never quite know how that compares in the marketplace. You know, have I been given a deal that's the same as my competitors? I don't know. Whereas, you know, with inside Merlin, you know that Merlin has, you know, over 12 years of experience of licensing and working with these partners, and you have that almost that assurance that, you know, I've got a really great deal through Merlin. So, you know, we didn't really get a chance to talk about COVID, but obviously it's been a very difficult year this year. I was wondering, have there been any success stories this year? I mean, it'd be good to sort of, you know, ending the year, has there been some artists that you've represented that have done exceptionally well? Is there anything like an interesting story you can tell us about what we've done?
Well, the main thing, the main highlight of this year is definitely that major services have appeared in this kind of market. So it was kind of a very good thing in a very bad year. Directly, we don't deal with concerts, and we don't have, you know, that kind of exposure directly pointed to us. On the other hand, people are at home, so they are streaming more, listening to more music, and so on. So it generates something. But on the other hand, we all live in the same ecosystem. You know, we have an ecosystem that has performers, that have people who are organizing the concerts, event industry, and you have and you have record companies, and all of them are in kind of in a web, and it affects us. It affects us indirectly, and I think that mainly it will, at this point, it will appear a bit later to us to appear what really this year is about. On the other hand, we had a very successful story with the new single of Dino Merlin called Me. We had very good results from all kind of platforms that we launched it on, and I think that's the main success story for us, because it's his first single after 6 years, and it really exploded, and he's not only talking to this kind of people from the region where it was on the first places of trending in all of the region, but also it made great results in Germany in streaming services and so on.
That's great. That's really good.
So we have a success story with those services coming here, but we are still a bit careful and worried about our performance, because they have to go. They don't have the same incentive to make new music if they can't go to the show and perform. And then that's, a friend of mine told me that it was kind of it's not about money. It's kind of how do you call it? It's about the soul. You are so used to that exchange of energy, you can't live without it when you do it for so long. So I think that at that point of view, we have to get back on the track as soon as possible.
Yeah. And I think signs indicate that hopefully next year that things will start returning a little bit more to normal. I think we're probably some way away from live venues being open up, but at some point we know it will return to normal. People will, and I think you're right, there will be. I think we've yet to see the full effect of what's happened this year, and already in other sectors, obviously especially within like retail in the UK, we're seeing large companies now going into administration, and hope, I really hope that the fact that there are two parts almost to an artist living, the live performance and the revenue from that, and then the other half of obviously money from selling your music online and physical products and merchandise. So I really hope that labels and artists are able to survive this very difficult period with the revenues coming from the streaming services and the download services and the CD sales and everything, so that when things do return to normal, that they are in a position to, like say, free their soul and be able to do the thing they love, which is to perform and to share their emotions on stage to the people that love their music. So I think obviously for now it's kind of like it's making the most of a very bad situation, and maybe using that time to write and create new music. And then obviously for the labels, it's just to make sure that they're doing everything they possibly can to maximize those revenues. So like you say, Spotify and Apple launching in your market, making sure that simple things, making sure your artist profiles are verified on these platforms, making sure you're creating playlists, making sure that the work you're doing with the metadata, all that boring stuff, so that when people buy, for Christmas, getting an Amazon smart speaker or a Siri speaker, when they say something about that artist, it finds it on the smart speaker. That's where metadata is really, really important. You get that wrong, you're not going to find it. So it's doing all that kind of stuff, all the making sure everything's in place, that you're doing everything you possibly can. TikTok profiles for your artists, Triller profiles for artists, making sure that everything is in place so people can find and access the music. Good. Okay, well, I think we're definitely over time, but it's been great talking to
Yeah.
you, and it's been fantastic
Also,
having you as a member, of Merlin, and I'm sure this is going to continue. And I think obviously with the new services launching, well, with Spotify and Apple, not new services, but with Spotify and Apple newly launching in your region, I hope that that's going to then see more labels and distributors looking to join Merlin.
also great to speak to you. Great to put your face on those emails, and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, we thought that this year Tom will come to Zagreb. Last year he was in Belgrade. We had a good time, and I'm hopeful that next year we will all meet live here in Zagreb. Thank you both, guys. You were really great. This was really interesting and a great start for Runda Digital Day 2. Stay with us. Tom has already in a few minutes next obligation, and we will continue our program in 10 minutes with our first panel. So stay tuned for more from Runda Digital Day Part 2. Thank you.
Thanks,
Dobar dan svima, evo još nastavljamo dalje sa RUNDA Digital Day-em. Slijedi nam panel vezan za implementaciju DSP direktive i nadamo se da će vam i ovaj razgovor biti zanimljiv. Imamo zanimljive sugovornike, oni će se sami predstaviti. Ovo je jedna od tema koje su aktualne u proteklih godinu dana i sigurno će biti puno toga za reći. So, dear all, thank you for watching us. Good day to all who just joined us. The second event today is our copyright panel, and I now give it in hands to Mladen Milic, and he will lead this panel, and I leave you all in good hands. Thank you all.
Hello to everyone. First of all, I would like to welcome all of you who will be watching and listening to us today at this second year of RUNDA Digital Day. My name is Mladen Milic, and I'm a legal advisor at HDU FPI Croatia, which is the Croatian Record Association, and ZAPRAF, which is the Croatian Phonogram Producers Collective Management Organization. And I will be the moderator in today's discussion. We have some wonderful guests with us today, so please let us welcome them together. Their biographies are pretty extensive, so I will keep it very, very short in the introductions today. So joining us today will be Helen Smith. She's the executive chair of Impala. Hi, Helen. Then Francesca Trainini. She's the chair of Impala's board and vice president of PMI Italia, among other things. Ana Škarica Lešić, she's the licensing and publishing manager at Dancing Bear Publishing. Hi, Ana. Branko Komljenović, he is the managing director of Menard and vice president of HGU FPI Croatia and ZAPRAF, and member of RUNDA's managing board. Hi, Branko. And Dario Rot. He's the managing director of Nika Records and member of the supervisory board of IPF Slovenia and also RUNDA's supervisory board. Hi, Dario.
Hello.
We'll be discussing the state of play in the European Union and the region regarding the copyright digital single market directive. And not to forget, last but not least, I would like to thank RUNDA as well for organizing this discussion and bringing us all together. As many already know, the directive on copyright in the digital single market has been adopted and came into force in June 2019, and the member states were given a 2-year deadline to implement it into national law. The implementation process, as Dario already mentioned in the introduction, is in different phases, varying from member state to member state, but at the moment it looks like the Netherlands would be the first country to transpose it into national law, followed closely by France, and then probably at the beginning of 2021, Czech Republic and Croatia, and then other countries. So Helen, if we can start with you, could you just tell us shortly what was the reason of proposing such a directive, and what are some of the issues being addressed by it, having, of course, the music sector in mind?
Sure. Well, obviously the directive itself, one of the main focuses was what was called Article 13 and then became Article 17 in the final text. And the idea there was that user uploaded platforms, they are basically distributors of music and they need a license like any other music service. And the idea was that the directive should clarify the status of these platforms. That's on top of a whole other range of reforms covering, anything from performers' rights all the way through to libraries, etc. So it was a part of a very big package, including publishing rights, newspaper rights, etc. So it was a really massive reform, and it was one that took a while to get over the line.
Yes, thank you. Francesca, we have seen throughout the process that there was a lot of opposition to the introduction of this new regulation from big tech, especially Google. We've seen a lot of lobbying, even in the European Parliament. What was the reason for this? And should we expect more of this sort of pressure and lobbying activities in the future as well?
Well, I think a lot of opposition is a very polite way of putting it. I mean, it was really strong pushback, and I mean, we haven't seen the end of it yet. So, yeah, if you cast your mind back to the summer of 2018, when internet personalities were sort of all over the place, telling you that the directive was against freedom of speech, freedom of expression, Wikipedia shutting down their pages for days, you know, when at that stage it was clear in the directive, in the proposal, that Wikipedia would be exempt from any ill effect from the directive itself. So yeah, there was an awful lot of opposition, and it hasn't stopped yet. What I would say the reason for it is quite clear, and we defined it with the sentence value gap. You know, some people have very obvious and very clear the difference between the income that an over the top or another one of these big tech organizations can get from exploiting the works of our artists, the recordings that belong to our labels, and what those people who actually invested in it are getting. So that's exactly the reason for it. It's an economic reason, and it doesn't stop because the directive was approved. It's in various stages of implementation. By the way, just as an aside, Italy is also quite advanced in the process of transposing the directive, and we hope early in 2021 to have a law. So yes, post-directive, you know, we will negotiate a price, hopefully, with big tech and with the over-the-tops. And that means that there will be a fair remuneration for the artists and the labels who are investing in the works that they are exploiting. And of course, we're very happy to work with YouTube and the likes, but not for free.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Branko, what is the current situation in Croatia? We've seen that the implementation process in Croatia started pretty early, but then there were also some surprises and difficulties along the way. Croatia is still, as I'm informed at the moment, the only member state so far that actually included an additional unwaivable right for performers in the draft of the new Copyright Act. So, which was later pushed out. What is the situation now, and what can we expect in the future? There's basically not a long time, not a long way to go. The draft is already in the parliament, so it should be over pretty quickly.
Yeah, we hope so. So you said it already that at one point of a time we were the only EU country at this moment to had it in our draft, which was of course terrible, and that's not what EU wanted with this. So we really need to make it clear and put it in front of the ministry and the whole government. That was not the intention of the EU with this directive, and of course with the help of Impala and IFPI and even some services who pointed out that it would be very difficult to work if this was in our law. So of course it was put out, but our Performance Society has been talking about this unavailable right for years now. At least for 10 years, they've been, very aggressively discussing it first with us, and then, of course, trying to enforce it to be put in the law, so we know what what was behind it, and it was not a surprise. So even after this was put out from the draft, we really had a very heated public debate when this was discussed online. And Performer Society put a huge pressure on many artists to discuss it in a public debate, and it was uniformly, so it was all done in the same manner, in same language. So it was obviously pushed very hard to the performers, and most of them have contracts with their discographers and their labels. So it was not true what many of them mentioned in the public debate. So we really saw that Performer Society even forces performers to lie in order for the society to gain this right. So it is really a very aggressive way of our Performer Society to have more money, and we know that it is not done because of the interest of the artists, but purely because of their own interests. And the whole time we be putting arguments from our side that artists are signed, they have their contracts, so that all record labels have the rights, but mostly to their blind ears. But at this moment, what we do have now is that the draft has gone through the government and it waits first reading at the parliament. So we'll see how it will go. I mean, a lot can happen at this point still, but we are certain that it will be hopefully something similar to the draft that is final. And what we do have now, correct me, because I know that you know it better than me, is that we now have some sort of a CBA put into the draft that is not binding, and so we'll see what will happen.
Yeah, it is. You've said it right. Some sort of CBA. It's not an actual CBA. No. It's some sort of hybrid agreement thing. Nobody really knows what it is and how it should be implemented. But yes, we'll see. Maybe the best thing would be to throw it all out.
Yeah. So at the moment, the draft we have is the best. We think that what we had at the table at one point of a time. So it's certainly better for the artists. It's better for the labels, for the services, for the freedom of contractual relationship between artists. So what Performer Society had in mind would only benefit them, nobody else.
Okay, thank you, Branko. For now, we will come back to that later. Dario, what is the situation with the transposition process in Slovenia, and have there been any similar difficulties as was the case in Croatia so far? And how far along has the transposition process gone in Slovenia?
In the beginning of this year, we were asked to send written submission to Ministry of Economy. Because of COVID situation, they were accepting only written submissions. There were no public consultations because of COVID situation. So in the cooperation with IFPI, I am also the president of local IFPI group. We translated their document about transposition of directive into the national copyright law. So, and we sent it to them. We sent it to the Intellectual Property Office of Slovenia. Altogether, there were 53 different written submissions which were sent to the ministry until the end of April. So you can see all of them on the page of Ministry of Economy. At the end of the summer, we have sent another written submission to Ministry addressed to all participants of the stakeholder dialogue on Article 7, because we were mostly focused only on Article 17. We didn't get any reply by ministry, but they will draft or proposal ready soon, maybe even in a week or two, but for sure before the end of this year. We don't know what the draft will look like because we have no ideas. I hope that they will follow, let's say, our wishes. And if I compare Slovenian situation with Croatia, we didn't have any similar difficulties as you have it in Croatia, because we already in year 2013, we successfully made a change in our copyright law from obligatory collective management for making available rights to individual management of making available rights. At the moment, maybe there are some ideas about extended collective rights management for this area, but I don't think so that this is acceptable for us.
Okay, thank you. We in Croatia feel very special that we are the only ones that came up with it. Anna, we have heard what the situation is regarding phonogram producers and what some of the future or existing challenges might be or are. How about publishers? What will change for them? And how are publishers even organized in Croatia at the moment? Is there some sort of wider platform maybe in the region or in Europe that you're a part of?
First of all, I must say that Croatian publishers and composers can already see some positive effect of the directive, because our collecting society, HDS ZAMP, has already signed agreement with some of the most important content sharing platforms. So we can see some money coming in already from that direction, and surely we expect those numbers to go up. Well, as you and Branko said, we have the new Copyright and Related Acts, Related Rights Act in enactment procedure, and all the provisions of the directive are transposed very faithfully into the draft. So we don't have problem with that. So don't want to go off topic too much, but we have other concerns relating to the draft and not related to the directive. For example, its extension of the scope of the rights which should be collected, which should be licensed through collecting society mandatorily. So we think that that should be changed from that wording should be changed from mandatory to facultative, and that's quite a big part of rights. Almost all the music licensing expect for the music usage in films, commercials, series, trailers, and jingles. And majority of publishers were very active during the online open discussion on the government's platform called e-consultations. But our remarks suggesting the change of wording were rejected, unfortunately. And we believe that such limitation of contractual freedom is not appropriate in today's world. So there are a few more negative issues, but not so important like this one. And on the plus side, the music publishing agreement will be regulated in the new law for the first time explicitly. Well, it will not make much difference because we have managed with general provisions and civil obligations act so far, but it's good to be recognized this way, of course. Regarding the second part of question, which was organization of the publishers, well, there are not many publishers doing some serious business in Croatia. I would say not more than 10. And we are all members of Croatian Composers Society. We have always one publisher as member of the presidency of the society. And there are also 3 publishers which are representing, represent the major music publishing companies. Well, Dancing Bear, where I work among them. We are sub-publisher of Warner Chappell, and we have our association, which is a member of ICMP, the International Confederation of Music Publishers. But we are dealing just with specific problems or issues from time to time. So to finish with the good news, the HDU, Croatian Discography Association, has recognized the need to gather publishing departments and sister companies of their members at the board of independent publishers to deal with goals we all have in common. And I thank them for that and for their support and the good initiative. And I would like to say that all other publishers are invited to join us, regardless of their membership in HDU. We have a lot of work to do, obviously.
Well, hopefully you will manage to solve these problems regarding the last copyright draft before it's adopted. Fingers crossed. Helen, we've seen some problems regarding the ever problematic Article 17 in Germany and Poland. Could you describe what the issue in those countries is, and is there a real danger that this would spill over to other smaller member states, which tends, and Croatia is one of them, which tends to follow and copy what the bigger and more influential countries in the European Union do in certain matters?
Yeah, okay. So I think it's also interesting to remember that obviously the EU minus the UK is made up of 27 countries. So even if 2 are not sticking to the program, then there are still 25 others who are. And what's interesting, you know, we even see some countries like the Netherlands, who's going to be the first. So they had some concerns on the draft, but they're going to be the first to implement, because there comes a point where, you know, the debate is around what's in the legislation, what's not in, is it balanced, do we have enough of the basic sense of justice and reasonableness in the text. And once countries get to that level, they resist reopening legislation, because obviously if you start to reopen every piece of legislation, you can never move on, and everything gets changed by the back door. So the situation in Poland is interesting, because they actually launched an appeal against the directive, and the judgment won't be delivered until after the deadline for implementation. So that's unlikely to have an impact on national legislation. The advice that we have is for member states to just go ahead and implement, stick very close to the text. And that's the best way to move forward. And it means that there is harmonization. Okay, this is one of the key purposes of any piece of legislation, is to ensure that there's a basic level of protection across all countries. And this is what makes the European digital single market function. We don't want to have any bumps in the road as regards licensing. So everything has to be smooth and liberated. And the Germany situation is a concern, because not only would it undermine the protection that the directive is supposed to guarantee, but it would ultimately lead to a disharmonization. And as you say, Germany is a big, powerful country. They had a very particular focus on the notion of upload filters, which I think is also to do with the history of the country. And for rights holders, obviously, you know, we see it in a little bit of a different lens. So Germany has got one of the biggest, strongest creative communities. They really depend on copyright. So it's idiosyncratic to then start reducing the level of protection. And what's particularly interesting in Germany is that they take a new approach to the notion, basically kind of introducing new exceptions, which were discussed ad infinitum in the parliament and with member states. You know, what's an exception, what's not. And when we see the way that all kinds of uses are now totally commonplace on the internet, it's very difficult to say, okay, a short clip, we can just let that go, because short clips are what kids are distributing the whole time. You know, we only need to look at TikTok to realize that there is a massive business in short clips, that you know, the market is developing in a way that legislators can't keep up with. So it's really important for them not to introduce exceptions which would cut across our ability to commercialize music and make a living for our artists. This is the most important message that we can send to Germany at this time, apart from obviously the message about harmonization and the risks that will pose to the digital single market. So hopefully, you know, if we can get some understanding about how the modern digital market works, then it will be easier for the decision makers to realize that, you know, they can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you say that in Croatia.
Yes, and basically there's not a lot of time left. We have till 7th of June 2021, so 6-7 months time. It's not really the moment to start reopening the whole process that was already, as you said, all these questions were discussed in length in the Parliament and all the bodies in the European Union throughout these last 2-3 years. Yeah.
And we also rely, you know, we rely also on the European Commission here, because they are also going to be issuing some guidance on Article 17. Now, it doesn't affect the legislation, because the legislation should be a mirror copy of the directive, but the Commission will come up with some guidance on what it means in practice. So what does best practice look like if you're a rights holder? What does it look like if you're a platform? And we have some concerns there with the direction of travel. So we feel that there is a risk that the Commission, even the Commission itself, could try to rewrite some of the language, which of course is not how you make legislation. So as Francesca said, you know, there was a big battle in the Parliament and for years, and of course it's not over yet. So we need to be everyone making sure that we stay alert and you know, we really talk about the massive positive effects of this directive and how it introduces a totally new balance. There are provisions in there for users that would never have seen the light of day. There are new balances in there for small platforms. There are a whole range of provisions that reform performer rights, etc. And it's really a unique piece of legislation that is totally balanced, and you know, one that we all need to be very proud of and be the first to implement in the region. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Francesca, we have seen not only lately, but basically since the beginning of drawing up this directive, that the performers throughout Europe are very active in asking for some sort of additional income. Is this turning into the new Article 17 problem, which was a huge issue, as we've commented already so far? What would be the impact on record labels if this some sort of new arrangement would be adopted?
Yeah, this is a touchy subject in some way, and a difficult one in another. And yes, there's been many attempts, even before the directive started being an issue or an item, to ask for additional income, as again, you put it very nicely. The first thing that I would like to say is that independents have always been in favor of fair remuneration of the artist, and we pioneered this with a Fair Digital Deals declaration in 2013, if I'm not much mistaken, because we did recognize that there was a need to set it in writing, you know, this necessity to be fair in respect of the artist's remuneration. But a new right for performance has already been rejected several times by EU and in other settings. Trying to introduce it at national level, as I heard someone mention earlier, is it's even worse, because it would also totally disrupt one of the main aims of the directive itself, which is harmonizing, as Helen pointed out earlier. What I would like to say also is that the rights for the artist are covered in the directive very, very specifically. You know, if you I'm just made a little list here. You know, we have Article 18 looking after proportionate remuneration. We have Article 19 setting the terms for transparency, and contract adjustment mechanism in Article 20, right of revocation in Article 22. I mean, these are all terms in the legislations that cannot feel an artist uncomfortable about his position. So, I mean, we think that this would have a very negative impact. If a right of this kind were to be recognized, it would have a negative impact on the other parts of the value chain, because there's only a set amount of money that's circulating. And if you take it away from one side, it goes to another, but, you just disrupt the balance between what is already in place. And I also would like to add, perhaps from a very label point of view, but this is very important to us, labels are the organizations that actually make the most, that give the most, that take the most risk and put the most capital on any of the new projects. And I mean, there are some figures about this, and the figures are in 80% of the new releases are indie releases. 80% of the actual capital that is placed by the indies. So we are fine, we are really paying a lot for the rights that we have, and we feel that we protect the artists already, and the directive does nothing more than actually stating those things even better and making sure that the artists are looked after.
Yes, and we've seen actually that some of the performers are even using this COVID crisis as an argument, because money is scarce everywhere. There are no live performances, and they actually, especially, we felt this especially in Croatia, and heard that there's something similar happening in the region as well, that they should be, to sort of say, awarded an additional right in order to compensate for this COVID-19 crisis?
I think that argument should be countered, really asking them to invest their efforts and their, popularity in supporting the implementation of the directive, because that is the way that we all are going to benefit from a bigger cake, a larger share of the monies, and not in sort of going up against each other. We should present a united front in this respect. And I really feel very strongly about this.
Yeah, that's a great message. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe I could just add something there, because obviously the crisis is really tough. There are so many individuals that are suffering during the crisis, and not just artists and performers. Anybody who's connected to the live sector. And we have just issued a new set of second wave recommendations at Impala, and one of the points there is for member states to really report properly on where the support is going, to make sure that it really gets to those who need it most. And obviously in that case, we would really expect member states to actually solve the problem of the crisis and really report very openly about what is being done, because that is, of course, a really urgent and pressing problem, and that should not get wrapped into the question of a new right under the directive, because clearly, the two issues are very separate. So I think it's also really down to member states to make sure that they provide the support that's needed for those in need during the crisis.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Branko and Dario, following up on the question to Francesca, how do you see the situation with performers asking for more remuneration, especially from streaming services, maybe from record label business side of view? Is there maybe a new model of doing business that could be applied that nobody thought of already?
Well, who will go first? Well, it's very hard to invest a new model, especially here. We know that our market is yet at its infancy, so digital market. We only had Spotify coming here in July, so Apple Music is in Balkans, except Slovenia, also from April of this year. So for majority of the time, we only had Deezer and YouTube Music. So really, we need to know that here in the Balkans, we are at the infancy. And certainly we cannot start by implementing a new unavailable light for the performers, because that would cripple the market and it will never evolve. So have to work together, of course. I also value what was said before me, what Helen and Francesca said about transparency and everything that is in the draft of the directive. So we count fully on that. We have to say that we really value the transparency, and that we are now working on a new application that will enable artists to have better scope of what's happening with their digital revenue, which is called Now Is Digital. We will present it at the last day of the conference. I know that it's been done on a level major, so by Sony and other labels, but I think that this will be the first time that is done by country level. So we are working very hard to implement all our actual stuff in the application, and after we finish that, so we will start also to put everything in it. So royalty report, stuff like that, so the artist would at any given time know where they are standing. So We think that we are doing everything from our side to make it better for the artists. We have to say that despite this crisis, so it's not that the artists are suffering only, so the label is suffering as well. So we had the lockdowns in the spring, so the shops were closed. We are now at a partial lockdown in most of the countries here as well. So, rights will suffer as well. So the labels are suffering. So, but nevertheless, we are still investing. We are still signing new artists. We are still paying for the recording session to happen. So I think that the artists are valuing that as well, because we are investing in their careers. No matter what is happening, we don't know where the live music will resume. So we also need them to be on the road, to promote the albums, to sell the albums on their show. So at the moment, it's not ideal for everyone. But I think from our side, we are doing everything we can to make it better for them.
Okay, thank you. And Dario, how about the situation in Slovenia or with Nika Records? Have you heard any claims from the performer side? As we've talked so far about an additional, maybe not an additional right, but an additional source of income for the...
No, we don't have any additional claims by performers. Our major problem is that in Slovenia, we cannot monetize YouTube at all since the beginning. And if you know that, for example, for our Nika catalog, YouTube means 98% of our whole consumption of our catalog on YouTube. It's more or less all our music for free, not only for us, but also for all the performers and artists. So this is our major problem. And I'm not sure what will happen even if after the implementation of the directive, because our collective society didn't sign agreement with YouTube. It means we cannot monetize it. So I think that this should be, let's say, focus not only for us in Slovenia, but also for you, because also all others cannot monetize their catalog in Slovenia. It can be monetized for Anglo-American repertoire, for those writers who are signed to major publishers, but not for anybody else.
Do you expect this, because the directive expressly says that online content sharing service providers like YouTube are considered to carry out communication to the public anytime copyrighted content is uploaded on their platforms by users. Does this mean that it would be more likely after the transposition of the directive in Slovenian Copyright Act, that this situation would change in some reasonable time?
I'm not sure, because anyhow, we are addressing our collective society. If they will sign agreements with YouTube, but they cannot do it because they don't have the license for making available rights, and they are not in accordance with our new copyright law. So on the other sides, they will never get the license from the state. So it means probably we will not be able to monetize our catalog ever. I don't know, really, I don't know what will happen after the implementation. Maybe Helen can help, or Francesca.
Yeah, well, I would find it really strange that if the situation in Slovenia is that you can't monetize your catalog, then there's a problem. You know, that either there's a problem with implementation, or there's another problem, because the whole point about this reform is that it brings the level of protection up across all countries, so that you cannot be in this position any longer. That's really the point of the exercise. So if there is a particular issue there, then it needs to be addressed, because that's just not right.
Yeah. Okay.
As I said, it's not right, and it's, I don't know, it's for already 15 years.
Yeah.
We cannot monetize our catalog. It means a big loss. But as I said before, not only for us, also for artists and also for all of you. Also
So
for Croatian labels or Pias or anybody else. Beggars Banquet, they cannot monetize it here.
Yeah. No, there's a fundamental, sounds like there's a fundamental problem in the way the legislation works.
It's,
so they need to sort that out with the new rules, and then if you still cannot.
I'm not sure if implementation will help. Probably, right. As you said before, maybe yes, but at the moment, situation is like this: collective society didn't sign agreement, so we cannot monetize our catalog. And as I said before, its consumption is close to 100% on YouTube.
Yeah,
we can monetize 2% of our consumption of our music. This is the only thing we can monetize at the moment. So
yeah. Okay, thank you, Dario. It sounds like a big problem, and we could maybe get back to it some other time, maybe in the region or with help from Impala or other international organizations. Just to get back to the publisher side.
You all should address a letter to Collective Society and to Slovenian Intellectual Property Office. What is happening in Slovenia? To both of them, not only to Intellectual Property Office, but also to Collective Society.
I remember it being discussed last year in a publishing conference.
It was discussed in publishing conference, so ICMP has sent a letter to, and also visited Intellectual Property Office. It was the same with IFPI, so they were on the meeting with Intellectual Property Office, but probably also somebody needs to address Collective Society.
It sounds like there's a fundamental problem that someone is not addressing in the territory. I'm afraid I'm unable from what you say to sort of pinpoint it, but there's got to be something that's not being addressed in the territory, something like the make available right or something similar. You know, I'm sure that ICMP and IFPI have probably sort of acted and bullseyed whatever it is that needs to be done, but it was good for you to bring it to our attention because I was unaware of this, and it certainly isn't something we should be overlooking, not just for your artists and your writers, but also for everybody else in Europe who's in the same situation in respect of this.
Yeah, but I believe so we need to be pushing it, because either ISMP or IFPI they write once and then nothing happens. So we need to push all organizations to write every few months if nothing happens, and put more pressure on the government and collective society. So there might be some news.
Yeah, and if the worst comes to the worst, then there could possibly be some kind of infringement process launched with the European Commission. Because if you can't rely on a new piece of legislation, it means there's another problem, and they're basically not giving proper effect to the directive. I remember that when we had our board meeting in Ment, this was already a problem. A few years ago, we already sent a couple of letters from Impala to the governments and the government ministers, if I remember correctly. So, you know, it's really time that problem's solved.
It is a time, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Dario. Anna, just to get back to the publisher side a bit, do you think there is still time? Because you mentioned there are a couple of provisions which don't work in your favor in the current draft of the Croatian Copyright Act. Is there still time to intervene? Could you maybe make these provisions work better for you, and would maybe some sort of wider representation have a bigger impact, some sort of lobbying from maybe the publishers from the region or from the Europe? I know you said it's a specific problem and it has nothing to do with the directive, but maybe some sort of pressure would work for you here.
Well, maybe our bill has passed the Legislative Committee and Education, Science and Culture Committee as well. And I think Media Committee is on the schedule these days. So the first reading is getting ready and not much time left, but there still is possibility to change something via amendments or modification between two readings. So I think we have to try to work together and to achieve at least one word to change from should be to might be. It would make a big difference, huge difference to us. So, well, we understand the pressure which is made to a working body by different interest groups. And they had a difficult task making this draft, but hopefully they will have some more understanding for composers and publishers. So all the help is very, very welcome.
Okay, thank you, and fingers crossed that you will manage to change this in time. Yeah. So I believe we are slowly but surely running out of time. Maybe we could do a round of last question to each of you. Do you, maybe some final thoughts, do you expect the transposition of the DSM directive have an overall positive effect on the music industry in the future? And are there also any negative impacts? What would those negative impacts be, and how could one mitigate them? So we can go in the same order. So Helen, please, if you could just share your thoughts with us.
Hi, yeah, sure. So yeah, definitely the directive, as far as we can see, will have a positive effect. It's really important that the legislation catches up with the market now. And when you're talking about negative effects, I would just point out maybe the risk if one of the national countries tries to be too specific in a piece of legislation, then it might become out of date very quickly. The whole idea of a directive is that it is not time sensitive. And I think our message has to be, look, this market is developing so fast that there are ways in which music and other content will be monetized that we just can't even imagine. So it's really important to stick to the very framework of the legislation and not be tempted to be too specific or too focused on time, because it will be out of date by the time it goes through. So I think that would be my closing message. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to add something positive to what Helen's already pointed out, and this is something that I have seen in my country, in my territory. The directive, and actually working towards achieving it, has brought together a very fragmented sector, has managed to put labels in the same room with the publishers, in the same room with the managers and the artists. And that's been so important and so useful. We, coming out of the work that we've been doing on the directive, we just went straight into the COVID emergency, and this new unity, new sort of strength of being together actually brought us an enormous advantage in being able to put a united front in front of our institutions. That's the incredible positive that I can see out of the directive. There's one negative point, and I want to be much lighter than what Helen has been. The negative point has been on the impact on our mental health. I've been actually asking around if anybody remembers implementing a directive being so difficult, so straining on our resources, and everyone has been, said no, never. This has been the most laborious process that everybody has seen, but something that we will, I hope we will be very proud of in future years.
Yeah, so from my side, also, we have to see what will happen in Croatia. So fingers crossed that this will go for parliament as painless as possible, because, during the public debate, we were really, on the one side, the artists were on the other side led by and by false pretense by the performer society. So it was not pretty just looking at the messages. So we really think that this is behind us, and now that when this goes for the parliament, that we will go united in one way, and that's how to raise the digital revenue for all, for labels and for the performers. So this is really what is going to happen, I hope.
Also, I am very positive and about the directive. I hope that the draft which will be prepared by our government will be good for all of us. So let's see what will happen, and let's hope for the best.
Well, I expect the new law to be enacted very soon, and also with all positive effects. And I hope that safeguarding provisions will help avoiding any possible negative effects of the directive. And I'm sure that this will bring easier and smoother rights management and collection of royalties. So more fair remuneration to all.
Well, thank you all for joining today. I believe we can all hope that once this transposition, as Francesca said, very laborious transposition process ends, that all the parties involved in creating music will come together and actually work on the promotion of this new development of digital way of using and listening to music, which had a positive effect. The COVID-19, which was negative in itself, had a positive effect on the digital usage of music and other content. So hopefully we will remember that and keep using it, and have more and more users on all the available streaming services and other platforms. Thank you all once more, and hopefully see you all soon.
Thank you from my side. Also, this was really interesting, and I can tell that some interesting things we can heard, and we raised some questions. And as I said in my opening speech, there are still many challenges with transposition and implementing of directive, as well as regionally, and of course in the rest of the Europe. I hope it will all go well for the whole music sector, for the whole music industry, not on anybody's behalf, but on the whole ecosystem. So this is the end of our first panel. In 15 minutes, we'll continue with the last event today, webinar Digital for the Beginners. Thank you all, see you soon. Dakle, hvala svima što ste bili ovdje sa nama i gledali, pratili panel. Hvala sudionicima. Za 15 minuta nastavljamo sa webinarom Digital za početnike. Ostanite i dalje uz Runda Digital Day. Thank you. Bye bye. Dobar dan još jednom i pozdrav svima koji su se priključili u ovom trenutku Runda Digital Dayu. Ovo je naš prvi dan i naravno onima koji su sa nama od prije podneva. Došli smo do zadnjeg eventa danas. Ovo je nešto što smo zamislili kao na neki način nešto između webinara i prezentacije. Dosta nas je članova pitalo da eto, ajmo napraviti nešto za nas koji možda nismo toliko vični digitalu, koji nam je eto, u posljednjih godinu dana itekako postao najbitniji izvor prihoda, zarade, promocije, marketinga, svega što radimo u diskografiji. Zbog toga smo zamolili kolege iz IDJ-a da nam kao možda jedni od najiskusnijih u regiji i najuspješnijih svakako pripreme takvu prezentaciju. Pozdravljam kolegu Bojana iz Mussolina iz IDJ Digitala. Bojane, dobar dan.
Dobar dan, Dario, hvala puno na ovom divnom uvodu.
Eto, tebi je pripala čast da zatvoriš prvi dio. Znam da već ima dosta ljudi koji čekaju ovu prezentaciju i tvoju priču, pa da ne duljimo dalje, prepuštam i video i audio tebi.
Hvala, Dario, puno. Jako mi je drago da sam dobio ovu priliku. Ja sam Bojan Musulin, Chief Operating Officer IDJ Digitala, dakle vodim sektor digitalne distribucije. Sa kompanijom sam od 2013. godine. Kada sam počeo da radim u IDJ-u, IDJ je bila produkcija video spotova sa tu nekoliko fonograma potpisanih i jako brzo je počela da se bavi i izdavačkim poslom, osnovali smo izdavačku kuću, onda smo radili jako kratko sa nekoliko distributera i onda smo shvatili da bismo mi to volili direktno i negde krajem 2013. smo stupili u kontakt sa Merlinom, tada sam upoznao Toma, kog smo slušali danas i nakon par meseci onako tehnički zahtevnih razgovora postali smo članovi Merlina i to je to. Nakon izdavačke kuće smo postali digitalni distributer, nakon toga smo otvorili svoju televiziju, imamo i sektor koji se bavi produkcijom sadržaja za decu, deo smo United Medije i to je ukratko o našoj kompaniji. I možemo da pređemo na digital sa fokusom onako na digitalnu distribuciju. Ja ću sada da podelim svoj ekran sa vama pa da možemo da gledamo prezentaciju i da idemo po njoj. Da li se sve vidi? Nadam se da da. Da, muzika danas. Posebno ćemo pričati o tome kako da vaš sadržaj ispliva iz mora sadržaja, iz tog content overloada, a sada ću vam dati neke podatke kada se kaže zašto je tržište saturisano. Dakle, na digitalne platforme kao što su Apple Music, Spotify, Deezer se negde digne otprilike 1000 pesama u satu, na YouTube se podigne 300 sati videa svakog minuta, odgleda se preko 5 milijardi videa na YouTube-u, a na Instagramu oko 500 miliona ljudi dnevno konzumira Instagram Stories. Tako da jedini način da vaš sadržaj ispliva, osim toga što će biti dobra muzika, je neka jaka vizualna estetika, zato što taj thumbnail, ta slika, taj cover art, on mora da dreči, mora da privuče, jer ceo taj consumer journey počinje klikom na vaš neki vizual i onda vi uvlačite ga u tu neku svoju priču i predstavljate sadržaj. Dakle, sama muzika, koliko god da je dobra, nije dovoljna da bi iskočila iz mase. Takođe, posvećeni fanovi žele više od samo muzike, dakle žele i priču, žele i neke fotografije i jedan onako kompletan paket. Tako da vizual definitivno nosi veliku moć i treba obratiti pažnju na to danas kako bi vaš sadržaj imao bolju startnu poziciju jer ga je jako puno i ta neka tendencija je da to raste. Znači, raste i u smislu da svako može da proizvede sadržaj, da je sve lakše okačiti sadržaj na internet i jako ga je puno. I tako da kad skrenete pažnju na sebe i dobijete tih svojih 5 minuta, sadržaj mora da bude zanimljiv, morate da ponudite neku emociju, neku priču, jer publika ne prašta i primetit će fake. Fake se vidi iz aviona, a prava emocija i iskrenost odzvanja 10 puta jače. Što se tiče načina konzumacije muzike, danas imamo prisutno sve. Dakle, i streaming platforme i downloadovi jako negde umiru i dalje su prisutni. I dalje imamo kolekcionare CD-ova i vinila i svaka od ovih publika želi drugo iskustvo. Tako da ako ste prisutni na svim ovim platformama i na svim formatima, morate da razmišljate o strategiji za marketing i plasman svakog formata. Covid nas je sve onako uzdrmao prilično, najmanje nas koji se bavimo digitalom, ali što se tiče live industrije, tu su ogromni gubici, mere se u milijardama i negde se kaže da je svako drugo domaćinstvo od početka COVID-a otvorilo bar jednu streaming platformu, da li je to Spotify, Apple Music ili Netflix, ali definitivno taj shift o kome smo pričali zadnjih 2 godine se jako ubrzao, to ništa nije moglo da nas spremi na to, tako da budućnost muzike je svakako bila na strani digitala, sada u ovoj COVID eri, u post-COVID eri, ćemo se dosta baviti i interaktivnošću i tako šta sve može iz tog digitala da se izvuče, pošto koncerata i dalje nema. Samo da promenimo slajd. Da vidimo. Da. Sada malo, pre nego što uđemo u digital, bih prošao kroz neke osnovne pojmove u muzičkoj industriji kao biznisu, pa bi se onda prebacio na platforme. Dakle, muzika je jedna od najvećih kreativnih kulturnih industrija i ona upošljava sve moguće druge industrije, a na ovoj listi su navedeni svi potencijalni izvori zarade i znači sve što je komercijalno, moguće eksploatisati komercijalno. Dakle, intelektualna svojina koja se tiče, kao intelektualna svojina, tu su i književno umetnička dela, a za nas su to muzička dela, kompozicije i tekst. Ovde što se tiče fonograma, fonogram je u našoj industriji, tako nazivamo, snimak zvuka, izvođenja neke numere, dakle zvučni snimak zabeležen u nekom formatu. Proizvođači fonograma imaju pravo da dopuste ili da zabrane reprodukciju, to jest umnožavanje svojih fonograma, distribuciju, stavljanje u promet, da li fizički, digitalno, davanje u zakup i činjenje dostupnim, to jest objavljivanje fonograma. Onda nosači zvuka u tom nekom fizičkom smislu, CD i ploče i kasete i dalje su prisutni i dalje fanovi muzike vole da posjeduju svoja omiljena izdanja, ali u muzičkoj industriji regije danas retko koji muzičar može da se pohvali tiražem albuma većim od 1000 primeraka. Dakle, to je negde više stvar neke forme i estetike da se to isprati, ali daleko smo od vremena nekih milionskih tiraža. Tako da proizvodnja i prodaja diskova i vinila je definitivno izgubila borbu sa internetom i sa streamingom. Onda koncerti koji su jako pogođeni celim COVID stanjem, ogromna industrija, čak za mnoge umetnike i muzičare veći deo te pite je negde live nego streaming. Oni su verovatno sada jako pogođeni i cela industrija koja je uz to, koja drži ceo taj live industry na leđima, zatim i merch, kao sve te majice, pivski podmetači, cegeri, šta sve ne. Onda i YouTube i streaming, ovde piše ad revenue i subscription revenue. YouTube, novac proizilazi iz advertisinga koji je omogućio Google, ali od nedavno i na YouTube-u možete da postanete subscriber koji plaća i da konzumirate muziku i video bez reklama. Isto tako streaming koji je najviše subscription revenue, postoje varijante gde možete slušati Spotify besplatno, ali sa tako nekim, ne možete da skipujete i to, postoje neka određena ograničenja. I odakle još proizilazi novac, to su sponzorstva, brand dealovi, placementi, sponsorships, endorsements i tako. To sve znači generiše novac u muzičkoj industriji. A šta je muzička industrija? To su svi ljudi koji su uključeni u produkciju nove muzike, marketing, izvođenje, izdavanje, sve te aktivnosti fokusirane na razvoj muzike i muzičkih karijera i proizvodnju muzičkih kataloga. Tako da svi koji učestvuju u tom velikom lancu se smatraju muzičkom industrijom. I muzička industrija upošljava brojne druge industrije, od advertisinga, marketinga, grafičkog dizajna, kako će izgledati finalni proizvod, vinila. Takođe u ovom dobu gde imamo razne interaktivne kampanje na webu i na platformama, brojne IT industrije su uključene u ceo taj doživljaj muzike kakav danas imamo prilike da vidimo. I nešto sada malo o izdavačkim kućama, kako one funkcionišu, pre nego što pređemo na platforme. Dakle, neki workflow je prvo A&R sektor, to jest Artist and Repertoire sektor, skautuje i otkriva talenat. Da li ga traži po live svirkama ili po nekim obskurnim mrežama i manjim platformama, to je jedan način. U zadnje vreme tehnologija dosta pomaže, čak mislim da, nisam siguran da li je Warner ili Universal, ali od kako je počeo COVID, njihova platforma koja je u stvari veštačka inteligencija, ona prati analitike na Spotify, na Apple Musicu, iz tih nekih ranih podataka mogu da predvide koji artist ima potencijala i na taj način otkrivaju artiste u koje će ulagati i čim će se karijerama baviti. Dakle, izdavačke kuće onda unajmljuju autori i muzičare da stvaraju novu muziku, finansiraju troškove produkcije muzike, imaju sve, uglavnom velike izdavačke kuće imaju te kanale pozicioniranja i sektore koji upravljaju pravima, tehničkim aspektima, dizajnom, marketingom, masteringom i svemu što smo malo pre nabrojali. I imamo majore, to jest major record labels, ogromne multinacionalne korporacije, Universal, Sony i Warner, i imamo sa druge strane nezavisne izdavačke kuće koje ne potpadaju pod ove strukture, a dosta independenta su članovi Merlina. I evo su neki od labela koji pripadaju majorima, za mnoge ste sigurno čuli, a evo ovdje imate priliku da vidite koja je to moć i koje su to korporacije ko stoji iza toga. Ovdje je da vidite otprilike koji su to artisti, dakle Rihanna, Jay-Z, Ariana Grande, Drake, Universal, Sony, Travis Scott, Britney, Bob Dylan, Bowie, i na Warneru Ed Sheeran, šta je ovo, Martin Garrix, Coldplay, Bruno Mars i tako dalje. A članovi Merlina, ima ih jako puno, ovo su neki koje sam tu našao. Ingrooves, Warp, Beggars, AWOL, Pias, K7, IDJ Digital isto. Znači mi smo članovi od 2014. godine. I možemo da pređemo na kako se gradi muzička karijera iz te neke perspektive digitala, pošto eto, to je danas. Tako je danas. Imate muzički projekat, pesmu, želite da što više ljudi čuje vašu muziku. Pre bi, i danas je to aktuelno, ali pre je bilo pisano pravilo, ako želiš da probiješ svoj single u UK ili US, ideš 8 nedelja na radio, na TV i koncertna turneja, bukvalno godinu dana, svaki vikend na turneji i redovno pojavljivanje na TV, u štampi, u nekim zabavnim emisijama. Ovaj način je pre bio jedini i on zahteva onako jaka leđa i lanac povezanih i menadžera, agencija, PR-eva, kreativaca i puno veza i kontakata koje morate, znači mix ili label vam to omogući ili vi morate budete jako povezani da bi to stvorili. A kako se danas gradi muzička karijera, svima su vam poznati ovi logotipi, dakle Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook i TikTok. Izbacio sam Twitter zato što je sve manje relevantan za muzičku karijeru. Jeste bitan u smislu da se tu sad kao neki reach, neke vaše objave, ali fokusirat ćemo se na ovih par platformi jer su jako bitne za muzičare danas. I šta im je zajedničko, sve imaju i social aspekte i muziku onako implementiranu kao neki core. I marketing naravno. Da, samo da vidim, to je to. Puno postoji platformi, ja sam naveo nekih 5 glavnih, ali eto, mi distribuiramo muziku na više od 300 platformi, ni sam ne znam koje su sve, ali jako puno platformi u Aziji, Južnoj Americi, u Africi, dok su ovih nekih 5-6 platformi globalni igrači. Vrlo je lako zbuniti se i upasti u dileme, da li da distribuira muziku svuda, gde podići muziku, kako je podići. I to jeste važna odluka na koje možda nemate i pitanje na koje nemate odgovor, tako da ćemo sada proći kroz te neke stvari. Fokusirat ćemo se na to kako funkcionišu digitalne platforme, koje su prednosti, koja je važnost društvenih mreža u celom tom procesu otkrivanja vas kao artista, kako postaviti muziku na digitalne platforme i šta onda kada se sa tim završi. Spotify, za nas je to negde glavni igrač, meni lično omiljena platforma, što zbog svog dizajna, zbog izbora muzike i zbog načina na koji se otkriva nova muzika, ali i cifre isto govore jako puno. Spotify ima 232 miliona pretplatnika, od kojih 108 miliona su premium pretplatnici, što znači da oni mesečno plaćaju neke iznose da slušaju muziku bez reklama i da imaju pristup svim tim premium feature-ima. Te cifre variraju od toga da u Indiji možete da postanete premium korisnik za možda $2, kod nas u regionu mislim da je to oko 6 ili 7. U bogatijim zemljama kao što su UK, US, Nemačka, to je negde blizu 9-10 eura, a dok imate mogućnost da kupite i family premium naloge sa do 6 korisnika za, ne znam, 14 ili 15 eura. Spotify je dostupan na jako velikom broju uređaja, iOS, Android, desktop, Smart TV, Internet of Things, Connected Devices i na raznim novim vozilima je bukvalno hardverski ugrađen u vozila. Nudi ogromnu biblioteku muzike, ovaj broj od 40 miliona mislim da je malo bajat. Kada sam proverio malo pre, bilo je 55 miliona numera na Wikipediji i sad, to je stvar ukusa, ali lično meni je način kako Spotify vas upoznaje i kako vam sugeriše novu muziku najprefinjeniji i zbog toga sam i zavoleo ovu platformu. Osim muzike postoje video sadržaj, postoje podcasti koji su deo onako globalne strategije Spotify-a za rast i šta je zanimljivo, zanimljive su artist stranice na kojima možete saznati brojne informacije o artistima, da čitate biografiju, da vidite nastupe, mada sada ćete slabije videti nastupe, ali brojni artisti se dovijaju pa imaju tako virtualne nastupe i šta još možete videti na kojim playlistama je uključena muzika tih artista i odakle njihova publika. Možete videti top 5 ili 10 gradova odakle je publika nekog artista. Da biste dostavili vašu muziku na Spotify, potreban vam je digitalni distributer. Dakle, Spotify ne sarađuje lično i direktno sa artistima, osim ako niste, ne znam, Drake. Mislim da i u tom slučaju morate da imate distributera. Kada dostavite muziku putem digitalnog distributera na Spotify, tada ne dobijate automatski pristup ovim stvarima, ali vaš distributer bi trebao da vam omogući pristup Spotify for Artists ili makar informaciju kako se to radi. Nakon što dobijete pristup Spotify for Artists, dobijate plavi checkmark uz vaše ime i pristup analitikama. Ja ću sada da vam pokažem kako izgledaju te analitike na Spotify-u. Da. Nadam se da se lepo vidi. Ovo je glavna stranica gde možete videti onako neke članke koje vam Spotify sugeriše kako da razumete svoju publiku, kako da promovišete svoju muziku, gde dakle neki resursi koji su onako univerzalni prikazuje svima. Ovde možete da vidite listu svoje muzike, svojih izdanja, playliste na koje je vaša muzika upala, da li su to editorial playliste ili playliste koje su napravili korisnici Spotify-a i možete da vidite statistike kako vaša muzika funkcioniše. Kada imate podignuto izdanje, kaže vi ćete videti ovde i možete da pičujete muziku Spotify kuratorima. Dakle, zaposleni u Spotify-u koji održavaju zvanične playliste Spotify-a, kojih ima mali milion, koje se fokusiraju i na žanrove i mogu da budu i tematski, i žanrovski i u nekim različitim raspoloženjima. Vi vašu muziku možete njima poslati na slušanje i da se nadate da će vas uključiti na neku od vaših playlisti. Te playliste prati veliki broj korisnika i Spotify danas može jako da pomogne vašoj pesmi da dobro prođe tako što će uključiti na neku od svojih platformi. Tako da definitivno dobro je imati pristup Spotify for Artists alatu, jer odatle možete da svoju muziku pošaljete na razmatranje i da se nadate uspehu. Kada kliknete na Audience tab, tu možete da vidite statistike koliko ste imali slušalaca u poslednjih, ne znam, 7 dana, mesec dana ili od 2015. Koliko ste imali streamova i koliki je neka promena broja pratilaca. Možete da vidite odakle dolaze vaši streamovi, kojih su godina i pola vaši slušaoci i iz kojih zemalja dolaze. Vidjet ćete ovu hit mapu, mapu sveta i možete da vidite odakle dolaze vaši slušaoci, što je u doba koncerata može biti dobar pokazatelj gde imate dovoljno publike za eventualni gig. I na stranici profil možete da možete da istaknete recimo novo izdanje ili playlistu, možete samo da vidim, i da updateujete svoje slike, svoju biografiju, linkove do društvenih mreža i informacije o koncertima. Kada unesete na Songkick svoje koncerte i povežete sa vašim Spotify artistom, onda će se ovde pokazati koncerti. Tako da to je Spotify for Artists, Spotify analitika. To je to što se tiče Spotify-a. Pa sad idemo malo na Instagram. Instagram mislim da bukvalno svi imamo instaliran na telefonu, društvena mreža, jako puno kontenta, druga po redu najskidana aplikacija na App Store-u i nezaobilazan alat u razvoju karijere bilo kog muzičara i u razvoju bilo koje karijere ili bilo kog biznisa. Instagram je postao nezamenljiv alat. Da, pošto ga svi koristimo, svi smo na neki način target publika za sve moguće na Instagramu, ali ako je vaša publika kao muzičara u demografskoj grupi od 13 do 30, Instagram će biti jako važan deo vašeg social media miksa, to jest marketing miksa, to jest platforma, to-go platforma za reklamiranje vašeg sadržaja. Da bi kao band ili artist iskoristili maksimum od Instagrama, poželjno je, nije potrebno da napravite business account, jer sa business accountom dobijate pristup Instagram, to jest Instagram, Facebook, marketing platformi i da bi vas što više ljudi primetilo, potrebno je uneti svu datu, metadatu, ukucati biografiju i obavezno link in bio gde možete da stavite neki link do aktualnog izdanja ili do short linking servisa koji linkuje opet do svih platformi gde se nalazi vaša muzika. Instagram je nedavno u regionu omogućio Instagram Music, sada vas više neće nervirati kada gledate storije svojih prijatelja iz inostranstva i da piše Instagram Music is not available, sada je available svuda i pomoću Instagram Music stikera možete da dodatno obogatite svoje storije, da budete kreativni, da bi vaša muzika iskakala na Instagram Music stikerima, potrebno je da imate distributera, dakle muzika se dostavlja putem digitalnog distributera na Facebook i Instagram i od tog trenutka je vidljiva na music stikerima. Saveti što se tiče Instagrama, postujte često, postujte dosta, napravite dobar miks sadržaja, nemojte da kačite samo sebe, nekad okačite i nečiji drugi sadržaj u smislu vaše prijatelje, neke kolege, muzičare, budite iskreni i publika će vas primetiti. Kao i na početku što smo rekli, način da nekom skrenete pažnju i da iskočite iz mase je jaka i vizualna estetika, autentičan i originalan sadržaj, ali ta vizualna estetika je klik, a bez tog prvog klika nema ničega. I ako postujete često i ako postujete kvalitetno, stvarate community i fanove i onda zatim fanove koji se vraćaju, što je poenta bilo kog biznisa, da se ljudi vraćaju da konzumiraju vaš sadržaj i da kupe vaš proizvod, presudan faktor za uspeh. Sada YouTube Gin, neverovatna platforma u vlasništvu Google-a, to je Alphabet korporacije, koja nam je pre ulaska platformi kao što su Spotify, Apple Music, svima nam je to bila broj 1 destinacija za bilo šta, za zabavu, za muziku, za teorije zavere, za šta god. I razlika u odnosu na Spotify, Apple Music je što na YouTube-u svako može da napravi nalog. Danas, sad, za 5 minuta vi možete imati nalog na YouTube-u i da počnete da kačite svoj sadržaj. bez obzira na to kog je formata, kvaliteta, kategorije, na YouTube-u je sve dobrodošlo, naravno ako u skladu sa Terms of Service. I 2013. kada je, mislim 2013. u Srbiji, u regionu, je počeo AdSense program, to je program monetizacije sadržaja, i tada je i IDJ Videos počeo da monetizuje svoje spotove na YouTube-u. Sa strane vidite gomilu thumbnailova IDJ Videosa. Jedan od mojih prvih poslova kada sam počeo da radim u kompaniji je bio upravo to da sve videe na kanalu izbrendiram našim brandingom, i ispostavilo se da je to bilo jako važno, jer smo tako dobili taj prepoznatljiv identitet na YouTube-u i na neki način garanciju kvaliteta kada kliknete da znate da je to IDJ Videos. Zašto ovo ovde stoji? Ako imate YouTube kanal, gledajte da i taj thumbnail bude onako jak, upečatljiv, da imate svoj branding, jer tako ćete podići svest ljudi o vašem brendu i znaće da je to sadržaj vaš i sadržaj kome će se vraćati. Tako da tada je omogućeno svima da zarađuju od svog sadržaja putem reklama. Dakle, na YouTube-u imate advertising koji možete zakupiti na Google-u, i sve te dosadne reklame koje skipujemo i zbog kojih instaliramo adblock su zapravo izvor zarade za stvaraoce sadržaja. Pre 1 godinu i po dana YouTube je jako pooštrio ta pravila ko sme da monetizuje sadržaj, pod kojim uslovima, zbog raznih problema sa stvaraocima sadržaja koji su kačili nepodoban sadržaj, pa su se onda veliki advertajzeri požalili i YouTube je uveo i rigorozne promene i jako puno ljudi zaposlili koji sada ručno prolaze kroz sadržaj i bukvalno ocenjuju i rejtuju content da li je podoban za platformu, što znači da vi ne možete sada napraviti nalog i od nule, od prvog pregleda početi da zarađujete, već morate da dokažete YouTube-u da ste konzistentni, da neki kontinuitet i da mislim da morate da imate 1000 subscribera i 4000 sati watch time-a u mesec dana da bi bili podobni za program monetizacije. Nevezano za taj deo za free platformu, postoji YouTube Music, nedavno lansiran u celom regionu, koji je jako sličan Spotify-u, Apple Music-u, dakle digitalni distributer opet dostavi vašu muziku na YouTube i ona iskače kao art traka ili oni topic videi koje ste u zadnje vreme videli da su u suggested videima zamenili neki vaš omiljen sadržaj, tako da YouTube sada jako radi na tome da se pozicionira i kao go-to streaming platforma za slušanje muzike u najboljem mogućem kvalitetu. Tako da kod YouTube je bitno da znate da osim što je video platforma, znači sada je i streaming platforma koja je isto drugi na svetu najmoćniji search engine, pored Google-a, koji takođe posjeduje segmente društvene mreže. Dakle, jedan džin koji je uplovio u sve sfere, jer je tako u mogućnosti, ali za vas kao stvaraoce sadržaja, kao muzičare, to je jako bitno da morate da budete svesni da vaš sadržaj će se tražiti i da morate da omogućite vašim slušalcima da ga lako nađu. Što znači title, tagovi, opis, postoje razna pravila koja se zajedno sva zovu optimizacija. Dakle, optimizacija tih pratećih podataka uz vaš sadržaj je ono što može da doprinese i svakako doprinosi boljem pozicioniranju u searchu i kasnije i u algoritmu, to jest u suggested. YouTube je platforma koju u potpunosti pokreću algoritmi, ima preko 100 različitih algoritama od kojih, eto, nama je možda poznato 5 do 10 nekih zakonitosti kako videi dolaze u trending ili dolaze u suggested, a inače ima preko 100 signala koje YouTube, znači iz svake watch sesije, iz svakog klika i svakog odgledanog videa, preko 100 signala da li je taj video zadovoljio vaše potrebe kao korisnika i kako će se taj video pozicionirati na YouTube-u. Tako da algoritam će uspešne videe nagraditi, učiniti još uspešnijim, a neuspešne će zakopati i bukvalno neće nikom iskakati sa strane. I taj segment YouTube-a koji se tiče društvene mreže, to je odgovaranje na komentare vašim fanovima, korišćenje community postova, da okačite status, i Reels, to jest YouTube-ova verzija Instagram storija, su podjednako važni kao i vaš sadržaj da bi se vaš profil otkrio i da bi uopšte bili u priči. Facebook, isto džin koji je obeležio naše živote i u poslednjih nekoliko godina je doživeo evoluciju, znači od društvene mreže preko jako moćne marketing platforme do video platforme, i eto sada i Facebook ulazi u muziku. Dakle, Facebook koji je vlasnik i Facebooka, i Instagrama i Whatsappa, podrazumeva se kao nezaobilazni deo vašeg social media miksa. Dakle, ako nemate Facebook page za vaš band, vi ne postojite praktično, i ako se ne reklamirate, takođe ne postojite. Što se tiče Facebooka i muzike, Facebook je nedavno u u Americi uveo premium music videe. Možete da vidite kako to izgleda sa strane kada kliknete na Katy Perry. Sada možete da vidite njene music videe. Ostali music feature-i na Facebooku su music stickers na Instagramu, lip sync live i audio library. Audio library izgleda ovako, dakle možete dostaviti isto putem digitalnog distributera vašu muziku na Facebook i omogućiti Facebook kreatorima da vašu muziku koriste u svojim video kreacijama. Pretraga je, evo kao što vidite, po žanrovima, po nekim raspoloženjima, po tome da li ima lyrics ili ne, i ovu muziku je moguće downloadovati i koristiti u videima na Facebooku. TikTok je fenomen, platforma koja je eksplodirala bukvalno kod neke mlađe demografske grupe, dakle od 11 do 23 godine, jako popularna. Iskoristila je moć muzike, tako da bukvalno svako sada može da stvara sadržaj. Karakterišu je kratki videi do 15 sekundi, zabavni trendy videi, razni challenge-i, dance videi ili potpuno onako random cringe videi. Lakše editovati i otpremiti video nego na Snapchat i Instagram, i to je doprinelo brzom prihvatanju od strane mlade publike, i video kreatori imaju jako puno alata kao AR filtere, muziku i alate za kolaboraciju. Isto je platforma koju pokreću algoritmi, sadržaj na njoj jako lako i brzo postaje viralan, to jest svako može da upadne u taj For You feed ako napravi atraktivan sadržaj. Za kratko vreme TikTok je pretekao brojne platforme po broju korisnika, znači ima 800 miliona monthly usera. Feed je algoritamski i beskonačan i dizajniran za vas. Dakle, u njemu nećete videti postove svojih prijatelja, sem ako ga ne trenirate da to učini, nego će vam TikTok servirati ono što misle da vam se sviđa na osnovu onoga što ste gledali. Što se tiče muzike, major record labeli su TikTok shvatili i usvojili kao mašinu za širenje muzike. Takođe, mnogi producenti koji su svesni kako TikTok funkcioniše, svoju muziku prave tako da bude dizajnirana za TikTok i pogodna za stavljanje u te kratke viralne klipove. Odabir muzike takođe može biti jedan od faktora zašto klip postaje viralan, tako da veća šansa je da će video otići u viralni feed ako stavite popularan fonogram. Hashtagovi su zapravo challenge-i, razni izazovi koje pokreće TikTok, a onda usvajaju influenceri i od toga i zatim svi ostali korisnici. I na TikToku se pogleda oko 1 milijardu videa svaki dan. Sada malo kako podići muziku na digitalne platforme. Dakle, eto, SoundCloud, YouTube i Bandcamp vam daju opciju da sami napravite account, podignete muziku i od tog trenutka vi kao možete da generišete neki novac na Bandcampu i na YouTubeu ako imate dovoljno subscribera. Ali sa druge strane, ostale platforme očekuju da vi imate distributera ili agregatora. Distributer je vaš tehnološki partner, neko ko vašu muziku preuzima, uglavnom kroz neki automatski sistem ili neki korisnički interfejs kao dashboard, i ne samo tehnološki partner, dakle dobar distributer će vam otkriti i omogućiti razne stvari kako možete da bolje pozicionirate svoju muziku na servisima. Distributer, dakle, vašu muziku zapakuje u određen format i dostavlja direktno servisima Spotify, Apple, YouTube Music i još 300 plus servisa. Postoji puno distributera, svi nude različit nivo servisa, usluga, tako da možete izvršiti pretragu how to distribute your music i naći ćete razne distributere, razne modele, pa ćete naći šta vam odgovara. Kažu da uključim screen sharing, samo moment. Možda je nešto isteklo. Ja sam uključio. Sada? Super. Da li se videlo do sada? Dobro. Istekla verovatno nešto. Dakle, šta treba da očekujete od distributera? Tačnost, ako ste podigli muziku i odredili da na određenog datuma izađe na platforme, to bi trebalo se desiti. Dakle, to je neki minimum requirement da zapravo se vaša muzika pojavi kada želite. Onda transparentnost, to je nešto kako smo mi bazirali naš biznis, dakle ništa se ne skriva, sva data koju mi dobijemo od digitalnih platformi nefiltrirano je dobija artist, klijent, label, kogod, zato što ta data može biti presudna, osim za zarade što se podrazumeva, dakle data o slušanosti, o trendovima, o tome gde i kako fanovi konzumiraju vašu muziku, sva ta data zapravo pripada vama i to je ta neka transparentnost na kojoj se i mi baziramo. Onda plaćanje i metodi plaćanja, ako vaša muzika zaradi, red je da tu zaradu i dobijete i to će vam biti prikazano na izveštajima ili u dashboardu koji vam da distributer. I komunikacija, dakle, svi naši klijenti sa nama mogu da, kad god se čuju i da popričamo o svemu što te platforme nude, dakle da se otvori Spotify for Artists, Apple Music for Artists, Deezer for Artists, Canvas i svi ti neki feature-i koji će pomoći da vaša muzika i vaši profili zasijaju i da odskače, to o tome bi trebalo da možete da otvoreno komunicirate sa distributerom. I sada ćemo malo da protrčimo kroz društvene mreže, dakle, eto, kažem, napraviti hit je oduvek teško, sad u vreme COVID-a je najteže, zato što su svi online, rekordno puno vremena online i došlo je do tog content overload momenta, da svi izbacuju sadržaj, da ga ima previše, a mi ćemo da probamo da odgovorimo na pitanja kako doći do publike, kako stvoriti brand, kako konvertovati casual fanove u lojalne fanove i malo o algoritmima. Prvo pitanje je kome se obraćam i morate znati kome se obraćate da bi znali uopšte koja vam je strategija i tako ćete, kad dođete do tog odgovora, to je publika koja vas dovodi do uspeha, da znate kog je uzrasta vaša publika, koju mrežu koristi, koju platformu i onda znate kako sa njima da komunicirate, šta ih zanima. Što se tiče jezika i komunikacije, sigurno ste primetili da vaši omiljeni artisti, labeli imaju neki svoj određen vibe i stil komunikacije. Dakle, oni govore jezikom svoje target grupe. Ako su uspešni i ako vi umete da pričate tim jezikom, došli ste do suštine uspeha na digitalu i u marketingu. Dakle, ako komunicirate sa vašom target grupom njihovim jezikom, uspeh je zagarantovan. I ako vam nije jasno kako, onda pogledajte kako to rade vaši omiljeni artisti, skinite fazon, nije ništa strašno, sve je negde već smišljeno i sve već postoji, tako da ta komunikacija je jako bitna jer se na taj način pravi konekcija sa brendom i tako od ovog casual fana nastaje lojalni fan koji će šerovati vaše stvari, bukvalno će postati vaš megafon, megafon za vaš brend, pričati prijateljima, deliti vašu muziku i što je najbitnije da muzika zaživi. Analiza tržišta, eto, kaže, vaš trodupli album avangardnog noise-core je možda zaista vrhunski, ali pitanje je da li to iko želi da sluša. Dakle, morate malo da ispitate tržište i da vidite da li vaš proizvod uopšte ima publiku. Ako vam je cilj uspeh u muzici, pogledate šta rade vaši omiljeni muzičari i kako oni to rade i šta rade da pokrenu svoje fanove. I ovo vas dovodi do onako razumevanja da shvatite gde pripadate, kako komunicirati i kako ponuditi vaš proizvod, muziku fanovima. Što se tiče marketinga, sve ove platforme koje smo danas prošli daju opcije plaćenog marketinga koje je danas neophodan. Sve ove platforme vam daju te alate da dođete do bilo koje grupe, dakle svi ste vi verovatno napravili nekad Facebook reklamu ili Instagram reklamu gde možete da birate ko će videti, kada će videti, šta taj neko lajkuje i da dođete. Dakle, svi smo na telefonima i poenta je da vi dođete do screena, da ričujete vašeg potrošača, to jest vašu publiku na ekranu koji oni gledaju. Da li gledaju u laptop ili u telefon u ruci, bitno je da dođete do tog screena, da oni vas vide i da dođe do tog klika. Marketing sjajan je da se pokrene kampanja izlaska singla, albuma ili da što više ljudi sazna za vaš brand ili band. Tako da bilo koja neka vaša aktivnost bilo bi dobro da bude propraćena makar sa malo marketinga. I nešto malo za kraj o budućnosti muzike u digitalnom svetu. Dostupnost, interaktivnost i context-based i mood-based. Dakle, dostupnost. Postoji, 300 digitalnih servisa, možda i više, i jako je lako zbuniti se i doneti pogrešnu odluku da imate, na primjer, samo na jednoj platformi muziku. Ja sam krivac isto, ja sam u jednom trenutku svoj label skinuo sa svih platformi i onda sam se gorko kajao zato što sam tako poremetio neke stvari kojih nisam bio ni svestan, izgubio sam trafik i shvatio sam da muzika treba da bude na svim platformama, jer to, ako nije, to je kao da ste stavili proizvod samo u jednu prodavnicu, a prodavnica ima na hiljade i samo ne treba ograničavati vašu potencijalnu publiku. Sve se kreće jako brzo, svi skaču sa YouTube-a na Instagram, sa Instagrama na Spotify playliste, pa onda malo na Facebook, tako da definitivno moje mišljenje i neka preporuka da se ne oslanjate samo na jednu platformu, jer i vaša publika šeta između platformi tražeći sadržaj, tako da sadržaj treba da iskače iz frižidera po mogućstvu, jer tako je najveća šansa da se vaš sadržaj otkrije. Takođe, neke platforme su dostupne samo u nekim zemljama, dakle, ako stavite muziku na samo jednu platformu ili na samo 5 platformi, za vas nikad neće čuti neko iz Kine, Južne Amerike, Afrike ili Azije, tako da definitivno preporuka je da sadržaj bude dostupan svuda da bi bio dostupan svim potencijalnim slušalcima. Interaktivnost u doba COVID-a, imali smo priliku da vidimo, i Travis Scott je imao saradnju sa Fortnite-om i virtualni nastup na YouTube live-u, Vikend je predstavio na TikToku svoj interaktivni nastup gde je publika mogla da učestvuje, da šalje poruke. Zašto? Zato što mozak naš bolje reaguje na sadržaj koji uključuje više čula, dakle probajte da smislite nešto novo, alati su vam dostupni, dakle AR i VR filteri na Instagramu, na TikToku, Web 3.0 je tu, dakle i web sajtovi sada mogu biti trodimenzionalni i možete napraviti neko interesantno 360 iskustvo gde će neko ući u neki prostor, dakle to su stvari u kojima ljudi uživaju, to su stvari koje dižu vas i onda personalizacija. Dakle, vi možete da iskoristite MailChimp ili neki drugi newsletter alat da se fanu obratite njegovim imenom, da kažete dragi Bojane, ovo je za tebe, pa mu date nešto i gamification, znači unesite malo zabave, napravite neku foru zato što to na duge staze će jako puno značiti za isto taj odnos sa fanovima i pozicioniranje vaše kao brenda, kao artista. I kontekst, mood i social, kad pričamo o kontekstu, eto, danas je spomenuti TikTok i Fleetwood Mac, dakle, ako prepoznajete gospodina sa slike, on je, eto, vozi skate, pije cranberry juice i sluša Fleetwood Mac i nakon toga u roku od nekoliko dana pesma Dreams dobije 80 miliona streamova na Spotify-u. Tako da nov sadržaj na novoj platformi sa muzikom je donao neku novu vrednost i novoj publici predstavio stari sadržaj. To je muzika u nekom novom kontekstu. Takvih platformi će biti sve više. Takođe, platforme koje koriste podatke i algoritme da vas upoznaju, da znaju na osnovu vaših paterna slušanosti kako se osjećate ili u kom ste fazonu, će vam preporučivati savršenu muziku za trenutak. I eto, tu su blizu i socijalne mreže koje će da nas povezuju na osnovu našeg muzičkog ukusa i raspoloženja, tako da to je negde budućnost, to je sve iza ugla. Budite spremni, vaša muzika treba da bude svuda, nađite digitalnog distributera ako već nemate i komunikacija sa fanovima, estetika i jaki vizuali koji privlače pažnju, mislim da su glavni takeaways ove prezentacije, tako da mislite o tome. Ako neko ima nekih pitanja, slobodno mi pišite na mail bojan@idjvideos.tv. Nemojte da se stidite. I to bi bilo to za našu prezentaciju. Eto, jako mi je drago da sam imao priliku da podelim ovo sa vama.
Bojane, ovo je bilo odlično. Hvala ti puno. Evo, šta reći, nego puno smo novih informacija čuli, nekih utvrdili znanje tamo oko onih koje smo već znali i vjerujem da je ovo bilo zanimljivo za sve naše članove, ali i sve druge koje zanima prije svega kako funkcionira digitalne platforme, kako funkcionira digitalna distribucija glazbe. Hvala ti na ovome. Za kraj šta da reći, nego da nadam se da je gospodin koji pomogao Fleetwood Macu da doživi novu popularnost 50 godina nakon početka karijere, barem od njih dobio godišnju zalihu cranberry juice ili novi skate, to bi bio minimum nekako. Ali eto vidite na koji način, dakle, digitalne platforme, pogotovo zahvaljujući ovoj nezahvalnoj situaciji COVID-a, su kod nas, dakle ne samo kod nas nego globalno postale još bitnije nego što su bile do sada, a na nama je, dakle, kao izdavačima prije svega, izvođačima i svima koji su u glazbenoj industriji da ih iskoristimo najbolje što možemo za svoje poslovanje. Bojane, još jednom hvala, evo to je bilo sve za prvi dan Runda Digital Day-a. Drago mi je da je dosta ljudi bilo sa nama, ukupno kroz cijeli dan krenuli smo, dakle, tamo negdje oko 11 sati. Sutra nas začekuje još jedan zanimljiv dan, još više panela, još više evenata i prezentacija i uživajte do kraja ovog dana. Čuvajte se, budite sigurni. pazite na sebe i svoje i vidimo se sutra, već čini mi se tamo negdje od 10 sati. Hvala još jednom i do gledanja sutra.
Hvala puno.